Hi, everyone. My name is LaQuanda. I am the founder of Healing Black Women, and I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight for this very, powerful discussion where we are saying, hear us, understanding the injustices facing the trans community. We have a dynamic panel who are joining us this evening, and we just really want to show them love. The chat box is open. If you have any questions for any of our guests, feel free to ask. So we're just going to hop right in, and we're going to start with Queen and allow everyone to introduce themselves. Go ahead, Queen.
Hi, everyone. I am Queen. My real name is Zarian. I have a nonprofit organization here in Atlanta, Georgia, as well as a chapter in Macon, Georgia called NOMO. That stands for Navigating Omitted Minds Over Time organization. And we are a organization where our strategy is definitely for trans women of color. And what our organization do is we support trans women with education as well as support groups. And I'm also a contributor on Healing Black Women.
All right, Miss Lynn.
Hi, my name is Lynn Dinah Prince Morrison. I work with SNAPCO, Solutions Not Punishment Collaborative. I am a lead coordinator over there. And I am also the mother of the National Trans Visibility March that happened on DC last year, September 28th, we all had went. So, and I am so proud to join this podcast this evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ty.
Hey everybody, I'm Ty. I'm actually not directly affiliated with anyone specifically. I actually work with various organizations wherever they need help. So I've worked with Song, and I currently work with Song, as well as the Movement for Black Lives. I jump in wherever I can get in, wherever I can help, is the heart that I have behind the work that is being done. So.
And Char.
Hi, my name is Char. Like Ty, I'm not directly affiliated with anybody, but I do help where I can help. I am a Black FTM entrepreneur, and I'm 15 months into my transition. So what I bring or have to offer is life experience.
So thank you so much, you guys, for joining us. Myself, LaQuanda, I am a Black queer woman. I am a hardcore mental health advocate. I have been in the field of social services for over 17 years, in the field of mental health for 14 years. I'm a mental health clinician. I'm a public speaker. I've spoken with companies such as Eventbrite. I've spoken on panels with the Human Rights Campaign, HRC. I'm the former director of outreach for the National Office of Mental Health America. And so mental health is really dear to my heart. I'm also an individual who manages bipolar 1 disorder and PTSD. I care about people. I believe in allowing myself and my experiences to build the life of others. Regardless if it was negative or positive. I have felt like it has become my true purpose to really stand for people. And that is based upon having moments in life where I felt like no one stood for me. And so when we do this work, when we have these discussions, it's coming from a genuine place of just wanting people to be heard, healed, and whole. Mm-hmm. We are about to dive into our discussions tonight. There we go. We have everybody. So this past week has had just some,
Can I ask a question?
oh, hold one moment. Okay. So this past week has had some very heartbreaking, very positive developments when it comes to the trans community. And so let's just talk about the Supreme Court. You know, starting with the Supreme Court, starting on a high note.
Wait, is that like the brand from New York?
Hold one moment. Okay, so we're starting with, you know, just talking about the Supreme Court ruling. And the Supreme Court ruling came out and finally said that an employer cannot discriminate against an individual based upon their sexual orientation or their how they identify gender. And that has been a fight for years because so many individuals have lost their jobs, lost their careers based upon discrimination in the workplace. And
That sucks.
let's start there. And I'm going to ask everyone to, let's just allow the panelists to speak so that we can get through the discussion. Thank you. And so let's start there in that space. It has been years. This was based upon 1964. It is 2020. What took so long?
That's the real question. For me, my experience is once I moved to Atlanta back in 2013, I ended up working for an employer at the time, and I had not started my transition yet. And 2-3 years, the third year while I was there working at my job, I decided to transition. And once I transitioned, I came to work. My boss was okay with it, so I didn't feel anything was wrong. And so it started circulating that I had transitioned, and eventually I was let go from my job. And it hurt because I was there for 5 years. I had worked my way from the bottom all the way up, working up under my director. So being let go after being there for so many years and establishing relationships with everyone and pretty much being there longer than a lot of people, it just threw me for a loop. And I was being referred to as it, and we don't want that, working for us. We don't want that around our child. And so it was really traumatic for me. But once I heard that the Supreme Court said that it was illegal for that to happen, my heart just dropped, because I know that there are so many people with the similar story that I've had, just, being let go for being trans or being gay or just being who you are. And it's just, my heart just dropped, and I was just so full. I was actually at my desk crying when the news came out. So I'm just hurt that it took so long, but I'm glad that it's finally here. I'm glad that it's finally here.
That's awesome.
That's a really heartfelt story. I'm glad you shared it with us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you all for listening.
I think that it affected me when back in the military. So this is back in the 80s. And back then, they had a law. It wasn't don't ask, don't tell. It was if they're going to ask you and you must tell them. And so, it was just very different. And I had some of my friends that were, they were kicked out of the military for being in the community, the LGBTQI plus community. And then we didn't have plus, we didn't have anything. It was either, the question was, are you gay? Are you homosexual? That was the question. So they didn't care. And there was it was on a form and you had to check yes or you had to check no. When I got out of the military, I worked for corporate America. Well, actually I worked for the federal prison system. Then I worked for corporate America. And, I was with my partner, and then it wasn't legal to get married, but we did get married. And I did get some flack, but I swore from the military and then just my personal experiences that I was not going to be living life, looking behind my shoulder or just holding back. I put a picture up of my wife and my family. I put my kids up there. And like, if you don't like it, then just don't be around me. But I mean, Queen, I understand exactly what you're saying, because there were some people, that they looked at you like you were less than.
Yeah.
And like you could not perform the job just because of whatever your orientation was, or just, and I was better. I trained half of them. Go figure. Go
Right.
figure. And in the military, you don't question if, because I was military police, and you have to have each other's back. And I did not have, anybody that I partnered with, I know they felt secure with me, but there was some ignorant people that were like, oh, I mean, I don't know if I want to work with you. You can handle. I'm like, I'm probably going to be winding up protecting you. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy that, yes, to hear the good news. That was great news, because nobody should be fired based on, come on, the color of your skin. Your sexual orientation has absolutely nothing to do with the job that you're performing. And you know what? I put these scenarios on. What if everybody met that demographic? Were you going to fire everybody? I mean, we make you money. We make your companies grow. We help with our own companies. It's just, personally, it was horrible. And I hated to see that. I was fortunate enough to have an attitude and a demeanor. Like, I'm not going to put up with whatever you need to say. I have a job to do, and you're either going to let me do it or you're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Yeah. The saving grace for me was, I had already had things lined up after, because I had just graduated college. And immediately after they let me go, I was walking right into another job, the job that I'm currently working presently. And, she actually paid me what I was worth. And so while I thought that situation kind of put me in a sad mode, when I moved over and crossed over into another position, and she didn't see gender, she didn't see sexuality, she saw a person who was qualified for the position to do the position, I was like, this is where I want to be. And I've been here for 3 years now, so I'm happy about that.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
That's awesome. I actually have a different viewpoint, and I think it's because of how I grew up. But I feel like when I heard the decision, I definitely was grateful and glad for all of us. However, I was like, really, why did it take this long? Because I grew up north. I'm from New Jersey. And so I didn't grow up with any kind of stigmas. I went to an arts high school. I've identified at that time as a masculine-centered lesbian. And I went to an arts high school. It was literally like fame. Like, people were dancing in the hallways, and we had transgender women in our high school then, that early on. And it was accepted for the most part. The only people that probably had an issue were like the jocks that played football or whatever the case may be. or what have you. However, even that, we stood up even then as teenagers, like, no, you're not going to treat anybody any different. You know, we're all going to coexist in this space, and we're going to love each other, and we're going to support one another. And so when I moved to the South and I moved to the South in 2003. I originally moved to Macon because that is where my family is from. And that was the worst 10 years of my life because I had never experienced such closed mind, people who haven't really ventured outside of that 4-block radius kind of mindset and have not had experiences in dealing with other people. It was like moving to Macon. It was like you were either white, black, or Mexican, and it's like no. There are many different people in the world. There are different cultures and stuff like that, and people bring so much to the table. And so I fled Macon like a refugee and moved to Atlanta with absolutely nothing. And as God started ordering, my steps and providing for me, I experienced my first uh, experience of discrimination for identifying as a lesbian at that time, working at a hospital here in Decatur. And it just blew my mind because in my mind, I moved to Atlanta because Atlanta, for especially those of us from up north, is the land of opportunity. It is the city of opportunity. Like if you can go to Atlanta, that is the Black Mecca. It is the gay Mecca. You can be who you want to be, and you can thrive, and you can live, and you don't have any of these issues you hear in other areas and all that. And then you get here, and it's like I was shocked, and I felt like I had no recourse. I went to human resources, they blew me off. I threatened to go to the EOC, and I even contacted Lambda Legal, and it was just the fear and the pressure of feeling like nobody is truly going to have your back. And even if these other entities like Lambda Legal, if they have your back, what are you going to have to endure to open this Pandora's box? And that alone is exhausting. Just the thought of it is exhausting. And so you feel like, why am I in the South? But then I have to look because I don't know about now, but up north, see, we had unions and stuff like that. And so I'm from Jersey, so it's not an at-will state. You cannot be fired just because. You cannot be fired for your sexual orientation, how you present, how you identify. You cannot, it doesn't work that way. And so when you move to the South and you start experiencing these different things, I was just like, the air was let out of the balloon. That's how I felt. And I felt like I really didn't have anybody at that time that understood. So hearing the decision, yes, I'm grateful for it because now experiencing it in the South, I'm like, I've been transitioning now. I identify as a trans person. I've been transitioning now. September will be 2 years. And I really have not had any issues. However, I see the disparities in certain spaces. I see that there's not a willingness to open up and accommodate everyone, or what have you, and there's lack of education. So I was happy for the decision for the South, and experiencing what I've experienced in the South. However, it still makes me feel like all of this is political. Because when you look at the decision that was made, now you have to look at, well, what about healthcare? What are y'all gonna do for healthcare for trans people? What are you gonna do for healthcare for the LGBT community? Okay, yeah, now we can't get fired, but now can you put those things that were in place during the Obama administration, and can you go further and help us to make sure that we get adequate healthcare? And stuff like that. So it's always okay, what about this though? So that's how I felt.
Miss Lynn?
Well, for me, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I moved here in 97. and I had already started my transition. But back during them days, malls were very hard to receive, so I hadn't completed my transition then. So me coming from the north to the south, like you said, it was different. I feel like I could work down here, because they're very homophobic in Detroit, especially transphobic in Detroit. So getting a job was nearly impossible in Detroit. So coming to the south, I'm like, ooh, I could not be myself. I could work, have a job, be able to take care of myself. So I got a job at the Georgia Dome before they closed it down. I was working in housekeeping, and I had been there for like about 19 years. But my experience was that, when I first started working there, I couldn't use women's restrooms. They wanted me to work with the boys than the girls, because the girls did basically cleaning the restrooms, the suites, vacuuming, vacuuming, things of those nature. So the guys would do like breakdown, setup, really manly work, you know what I'm saying? To where I was like, look, I'm not doing all of that. I can't do all of that. I'm trying to break muscle down, not build it up, so,
That's right.
so they would try me from time to time about, you got to work with the guys. And I would do it, but I would just bitch the whole entire time. But I got a lot of misgendering, calling me, he in front of folks and he this. So it got to the point to where I had started to check them. Look, there's she. My pronoun, she, her, and hers. If you can't understand that, we got a problem. So I was always, I would speak up, never to the point to where I would talk too much. I would get tired because I would know how to speak, if that makes sense, to where I was still heard, and then, I built a rapport with some of my workers, so I've been there for years. So it was like, every time we got a new crew would come in, because some would leave, some would come in, the boys would kind of always like standoffish from me, and you had some cisgender women would come in the door and be kind of side-eyed and whatever. But I was glad for the most part that they came in and they did rule on that, because discrimination is bad in any workplace. But to be trans in the workplace, it's really bad for us, because a lot of times we get sexually harassed and also misgendered all at once.
Yep.
And then when you report sexual harassment, they want to turn the tables on you and be like, you're the one, the guy where I didn't, they came at me. And we know half the time these niggas be coming at us. They lie to save they lie to save their ass, so it's like, I was glad it happened, but I went through a lot. When I tell you, child, those 19 years at the Dome, I went through a lot. But I've always been a fighter for the people. I've always put my mind, even at work, trying to wake folks up to what's going on in the country, this, that, and the other. But oh yeah, it was crazy. It was really crazy,
I think a lot of things, especially being, connected to individuals who identify as members of the trans community, is how fearful they were of what if someone finds out. And to see someone go through that level of torment simply because they want to go to work in peace, want to go to work, do their job, get along with their coworkers, and then go home, get paid and go home. A simple, basic right. And it took so long for a court to acknowledge, hey, let's protect everyone. But Ty rolled us really into our very next discussion, because as we took a step forward, we got pushed back by the Trump administration. And that is, and what Ty was referring to, there's a section in the Affordable Care Act is Section 1557. And this section of the CARE Act prohibits discrimination based on race, color, national origin, sex, age, or disability. And that is in certain health programs and activities. That is what the law specifically says. And then a rule was enacted in 2016 that interpreted the ban on sex discrimination to include discrimination on the basis of gender identity, which has been interpreted by many lower and federal courts, to include that sex discrimination includes gender identity, the discussion of gender identity. Well, the Trump administration, through the Department of Health and Human Services, had announced that they were no longer going to go by that interpretation. That instead, that they were going to look at sex discrimination according to the plain meaning of the word sex, to mean either male or female as it's determined by biology. And so when we get into these discussions and how administrations pull back rights, you have to pay attention to the language that they are attacking. Because the same way with the 1964, the ruling that came out, it was like, did this include sexual orientation and gender identity? And the court ruled that it did. So here we go again around the word sex, and people playing with that term to say, oh, it doesn't include you. So we're gonna pull all these rights and say that healthcare professionals can basically discriminate against someone based upon gender identity, and that is so laced, because if you read, I am in the umbrella of healthcare professionals, and we go by code of ethics. If you read our code of ethics says, you can't have this license, which is governed by your state, and do this right here. It goes against the ethical practices that you sign up for when you do this work.
Period.
So, so that was the appalling thing. But HRC immediately stepped in and saying, nope, we're suing the administration.
Period.
We're suing the administration. So this is going to, again, probably be an issue that is going to go before the Supreme Court again. Because the Supreme Court, again, is going to have to make the final determination on what does sex discrimination mean. Which is mind-boggling. We have to have this discussion in 2020, that everyone, has a right to be healthy, to be well, to be able to go to the doctor when they're sick, be able to get the treatment that they need, and not feel like they're going to be treated as if they're a second-class citizen.
Right.
Or even that they don't even exist, or that they're not a whole person. And this infuriates me because, as a mental health professional, I know those types of barriers prevent individuals from seeking out the help and treatment that they need in the first place.
Yep. Yes, ma'am. You hit the nail on the head.
It prevents them from seeking out the services that they need, because here we go in the country that we live in and pay taxes in is telling us citizens, hey, you don't count.
What's crazy, LaQuanda, is this right here. It's already hard enough being trans in itself. That is hard, because you're trying to embody this person, and this is just my opinion. you're trying to embody this person that you've been trying to show and expose to the world for a long time. That in itself is a battle. And then for us to have to take on additional things such as healthcare, it's so freaking crazy. It's like I pay when I get my check on the 30th of every month. Them good taxes come out of there. So why y'all trying to tell me I can't get something that I'm paying the same damn thing that y'all are doing? Come on, how does that work? It's so frustrating. And one of the things I asked, I'm sorry, I'm lying. I saw something on Dr. Phil, and I'm not sure if y'all saw this or not, but Dr. Phil had the room separated where it was cisgender people on one side and it was LGBTQ plus people on another side. And Dr. Phil posed a question to the cisgender people and religious-minded people. And as he asked his white couple, said, what does this gay couple over here, how they live their life affect yours? You could hear a feather drop because she couldn't even give an answer. So trying to figure out why in the world people have such an issue with rights that they're afforded and that they're given freely, why shouldn't I be entitled to that? Is it because of the fear that you don't understand, or is it because what you've been conditioned to know and what you've been conditioned, what you've been taught? What is it? So when I heard that, I was pissed because in my support group, I have had young ladies that have gone into doctor's offices and have been referred to as he. And I'm talking about and beat for the gods, hair done, makeup on fleek and everything. And me being the person I am, I called the doctor's office and I almost went up there. And I wanted to get in doctor's face and say, how dare you? How could you? Like you said, there's a code of ethics that for me personally, I believe everybody has or should be going by. But specifically, healthcare providers should know better, should definitely know better that they care about the labels, a human being, period. If somebody is looking for help, why does it matter what gender they are? Why does it matter what sexual orientation? Help that person. And I even say this, I'll give the benefit of the doubt. If you don't want to do it, just say, just politely, I can outsource you out somewhere. Do that if you don't want to be bothered. I promise you, somebody gonna want their insurance, and somebody gonna want a doctor's office gonna want that money.
I think a lot of it has to do with people it's twofold, sometimes threefold. The first thing is, a lot of times people are dealing with their own inner demons, their own inner fight.
True.
They have been dealing with this inner fight for years and they refuse to acknowledge what they have going on internally within themselves, that there's something within the LGBT community, there's something within trans people that they identify with and it scares them. And instead of them being real with themselves, they do little slick slide stuff like in front of everybody else. They act like, oh no, I wouldn't talk to them, or I wouldn't entertain conversations with her or him or whatever. And then on the side, hey, how you doing? Whatever. Mm-hmm. The other fold to that is fear. People don't take the time, this group of people don't take the time to read and study for themselves so that they know for themselves. The way they get information is solely based on social media and the media as far as the news, and they go with that. So if you get somebody spinning, because I had to have this conversation with my mom, if you get somebody spinning this story that trans women, and I mean no disrespect, but this is the story that they spin, trans women are walking into the bathroom under a guise. They are really men and they're coming to violate you. And it's like my mother saw Laverne Cox for the first time the other day. And my mother was like, she's beautiful. And I said, yes, and she's a trans woman. She said, what? I said, and all of this that they hyped up about this bathroom conversation and all of that, they instilled fear into people to make it seem as though there was an ulterior motive or what have you. And so those group of people, that's where they are. And then you just have those, that third group, that are just bigots and they're just prejudiced and you know they anything different, it's like no. And for the life of me, I never can understand why people are so invested on what you do behind closed doors. And so they take, their mind goes that way. So now when you're standing up and you're saying, look, speaking for me, I identify as a trans person, and there are certain things as far as healthcare is concerned that I need in order to continue to live my truth. Not what you think my truth should be, but what my internal, who I am. There are things that I need. And then they sit back and say, well, you chose that. And I don't think that you need it. And so figure out how to get it on your own. And then you have these statistics where trans men and trans women are high on the roster of HIV and AIDS, or trans men are high in having cervical cancer because trans men will not, go and be degraded to go to a gynecologist and things of that nature. And so I think that this is where a lot of this comes from. And it is very important that we remain visible, and not just visible and loud. Because the moment we start to accept certain things and we start to kind of shy away and pick our battles, every battle that comes, I'm sorry, I'm fighting it. Because it may not necessarily affect me, but it could definitely affect my sister or my brother. And so if I don't speak up, who else is going to speak up? And when you get them coming in, when you get trans people coming into the emergency room, I've had to speak to nurses. A trans woman comes into the emergency room and she says her name is Diamond. Well, we are going to call her Diamond. What her ID says, it doesn't matter what her ID says. What we are going to do is address her as Diamond. Now, what we can do is have a conversation. And every trans person that I've spoken to has never given me any kind of pushback. You have a conversation in private and you say, hey, I understand that you're trans. And I know that this probably isn't easy. So I do want to let you know, because your ID still says XYZ, your paperwork has to say that. However, we are going to address you as Diamond. Why is that so difficult? It's like, it's not changing your name.
To answer that time, okay, so I was in the hospital for sepsis last year, and on a lot of my paperwork they put female, because that's how I told them I wanted to be addressed. And so the nurses there, I'm not sure what type of training that they had, but they were extremely careful when it came to my pronouns, my name. I have a unisex name. I think it could be male or female. So they were extremely careful, and they treated me with the utmost care while I was there. So I don't think it's every hospital, but I truly believe it's just those one or two places that just really have not had the training that they need in order to know how to effectively handle trans people.
And also,
and some of these places don't want to know. They just want your money. They don't want the training. They just want you to come in and get the services, and they want your money, but they don't want to train their people to make sure that they're sensitive, that they are treating you like a human being.
And also, dealing with a lot of electronic systems, and this is like a little techie, but a lot of electronic systems lag behind. And I say that as far as having gender neutral options for individuals who are who are non-binary. And so, and also having if someone hasn't gone through the full process of having a legal name change, do they have an option for, okay, this is the alias or the preferred name of the individual, and having that initial clinician or provider, notate, this is how this individual identifies, this is how we should address this individual. Forget everything else that's on that plastic square or on that card. Those are things that we can deal with. That's paperwork that we can deal with behind the scenes, but there's no need to be disrespectful to how a person is existing on this earth. There is no need, because we do it every day in my field. It doesn't take a minute to say person goes by Alan.
Right.
Please refer to individual as Alan, uses these pronouns. But that always goes back to that person they're sitting across from to ask, hello, ma'am, sir, how do you identify? What name would you like to be? Simple questions to make a person feel visible and heard. Because simple things like misgendering someone and, calling them by their former name, to strip someone of an identity that they worked so hard to say, this is who I am now. And you push that person back. And it could be their first day. You never know where someone is. Their first day saying, I am. And it's too simple. It's too simple. But even in my field, I have to make sure that I call my colleagues out. If I recognize that they're saying he, I was like, no, that's she. There is, no. That is not how that individual identifies. So clinicians and providers, we have to step up to make sure that our colleagues are creating a safe environment so people feel safe when they come to see us for services, because we are serving them. They're coming to us. We are serving them. They are paying for a service. They are receiving a service, and that service should be coming from the graciousness of your heart, or sweet pea, you in the wrong field.
Period.
You don't need to be dealing with people at all, because it is not only our responsibility to create a safe space, it is a part of our ethical code to create a safe space. Because when people go back out in that world is cruel. People need a place where they can say, I exist here. I am recognized here. And it is upon us to give that to someone. And to be honest, it's not a huge ask. A huge ask. If you go to a car dealership and those people ignore you and check on everybody else around you, are you finna buy a car? Yeah. And then you complain. The service that I need, they didn't treat me, they didn't recognize me. How hard is it as a provider for you to recognize who an individual is?
Well,
And we have to, as providers, we have to call each other out and, say, we don't do that here. And we have to hold each other accountable.
Well, they need to clone more of you, LaQuanda, because I'm going to tell you, yeah, because I get most of my healthcare, actually now all my healthcare is through the VA. And, when you work with the federal system, I'm just going to say this, it is getting better, but, it's nothing like sitting in the waiting area and then they call out your birth name. But here's the kicker. You go up and they're like, oh, wait, are you this person? I call this name. And they look at you because look at me. And then they get confused. And then in front of everybody, they make you answer a certain question. Well, wait a minute, what's your last? Because it's protocol at the VA that they ask just for your last name and your last four. I've had it so many times where I'll give that to them and they're like, well, give me your whole social security number. And then they'll look at the paperwork and then they'll keep looking at me and I'm just standing there. And I used to just wait and not say anything. But then I got to a point to where I just didn't even care. I'm like, listen, I'm in the middle, I'm transitioning. I am female to male. This is what I prefer. These are my pronouns. And then they're like, some of them will look at me crazy like this, or they're like, okay. I'm like, how many times do I have to say just to notate it? And so now at certain facilities, they have alerts that, they'll go to the top of the chart, or they'll go to the top of the computer screen. And I was adamant. I spoke to almost all my providers and said, listen, I would like to be referred to as he, him. Those are my pronouns. This is my name. It is Char. Do not use that name. And you have to do that. You get so frustrated. It becomes, when you say pick your battles, do you say something right then and there? I guess it depends on, is there a lobby full of people? Do I want to cause a commotion? Do I feel emotionally like I'm ready to even deal with that? Or am I angry? I'm just tired of it. Listen, just fix this. Just fix it. It's not that difficult. And you're right, LaQuanda. It is so good when you're in that profession, if you can police your colleagues, educate them. I try to do what I can do, but that's not my profession. I don't feel like I need to educate you when that's your profession. You should be able to educate yourself. There should be something in place for that. Pick your battles is gone for me. This is just what it is. I don't care what people think. And that's just how it is.
And honestly, from a provider standpoint, it's not a battle that you should be fighting in the first place, because that's on us. That's on us. You're coming to our facility. You're coming into a space where, again, we receive you, and you shouldn't be received any different from the cisgender individual that comes into the room. And so that is on us and our responsibility to educate us and to make sure that we're providing a quality service, period. Nothing else to add. You treat people how you want to be treated. And if you are in a field of service, especially medical and social services and mental health, if you're not creating a safe space for the people who come in to see you, you are in the wrong field. You're in the wrong field. And sometimes colleagues don't say anything because they're, I'm a girl from Mississippi, the deep. and so people would be afraid to say things. I'll never forget, one of my professors told me to stay after class, and I stayed after class. And she looked at me and she said, LaQuanda, you need to make sure that you have a strong savings account, because somebody gonna try to fire you for the way that you talk out. And I was like, I'm just like, so be it, let's get it. But you have to know, and every human on this earth has had one experience, at least one experience, where they felt like an outcast, they felt deserted, they felt unloved, unwanted, rejected. If you ever experience that, you should never want another individual to experience that whatsoever. Never whatsoever. It's inhumane. It's inhumane for someone to come in your space and leave it and feel worse. It's unacceptable to me. It's completely unacceptable.
So how do you think we bridge the gap in regards to, because if you are new in your transition, and speaking for both trans men and trans women, but I like to highlight trans women a lot more. because I worked in outpatient surgery at some point, and I've seen a lot of trans women come into that space. And I don't want to diminish anybody's experience. I just feel like it's worse. And so how do we then bridge that gap? Like as individuals, because everybody, like Char and myself, we're over picking battles. It's like, nah, we get ready to set you straight and we're gonna keep moving. However, there are some that are newly transitioning. There are some that may have been transitioning for a while and they still haven't found their voice and they still feel that level of anxiety and fear and trauma about these experiences and these interactions. And so how then do we move forward to bridge that gap for them?
I,
You know, go ahead, Queen.
I was gonna say, I think that's a good question for Miss Lynn to answer.
I would say, first you have to lead with love with that. Because it's a touchy subject, and I think everybody, has to take a stance on that because it's not easy to do. All but everybody was talking, I was just thinking to myself, what really motivates a person to just constantly, consistently misgender someone? What is the motivation behind it? Why is it so readily done? I feel when people misgender you, they know you're presenting as a woman. They know you're presenting as a male. But I feel like they do it to remind you.
I think we lost Lynn.
Her mic is muted.
Oh,
You're
I think
muted,
they do it to
Nicole.
remind you
oh, okay.
that, to remind you that, that you were once born, male or female. And that comes from, I really feel like until we can figure out a way to change the way the church preaches from the pulpit, we're going to always have this issue. Because in the back of their mind, they're always thinking that, it's wrong. They shouldn't be doing this. So they do that to remind you. And as long as that hate is being spooled from the, spooled from the pulpit, out of the Bible, it's going to keep happening. It's sad, but it's a true reality. Because I've had to cuss many people out in the doctor's office. You know what I'm saying? I had a nurse come in and give me a shot, and she misgendered me 3 times. I told her, I said, baby, you need to go find somebody else because you can't give me nothing. You can't, no. So it's. I'm not saying it can't be done. It is going to be a hard battle, I feel, when it comes to that, because we have to change the minds and the hearts of the religious base.
Mhm.
So therefore, people are more open and more welcoming to give you the proper pronouns that we all deserve. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be hard.
And I think another,
I agree with you. And I think not only the pulpit and the churches, but I also think the media, because the media portrays us as
You're right,
in a very
as well.
negative way. And so many things are overly sexualized, and who I am has nothing to do with sex. It's so ridiculous. So I agree with you so much. Yeah, it does. It's religion, it's the media.
But see, and that's another issue. That's another issue because they equate, our gender with sexuality. And I tell people all the time, it has nothing to do with sexuality. Because you can have someone who be trans and still like the opposite sex. And it's like, but it's the fact that they like that sexually does have nothing to do with their gender expression at all. And it's hard trying to convince them that because that's what they're equated with. Like you said, the media, they lie so much on so many levels. You know what I'm saying? The image they have of us, it's always, in a negative light. every time a girl is murdered, they always constantly misgender her. We never really see them actually use her pronouns and her, and her name, her chosen name, not the name that she was given, her chosen that she took for herself. We never see that. They always do that, and those things have to start, I feel like now with this movement, we have an opportunity to address all these issues now, bring them to the forefront, and not let up on any of them.
We're getting ready to slide into our next topic, but I wanted to say for providers in particularly is that, and allies, we have to speak out more often and show up, because we cannot sit by and allow the people who are traumatized and victimized go through hell and then have to pull themselves together to go develop a rally, develop a protest, develop an organization.
Right.
So they can't be using all of their energy because they're still trying to recover. So we have to say, you are welcome here. We have to be out in the streets organizing things. We have to be sitting here hosting and developing discussions, for individuals to know this is what an ally looks like. This is what an ally does. It infuriates me when we expect the people who are traumatized to be traumatized, try to heal, at the same time they advocating for themselves.
We are overburdened.
And so we have to step up. Allies have to step up and speak on the behalf of our sisters and brothers, trans sisters and brothers, who and our non-conforming individuals who need support, who need to know that somebody is behind them, rallying behind them. They need that support. So our voices have to be just as loud as theirs, so that we can continue to grow this allyship. So when someone comes out, when someone's identified that they feel wrapped in love, even if I'm in Virginia and they're somewhere in Utah, then they know that they are still a part of a community that is accepting them, because the community around them immediately may reject them. We have to do a better job. We have to.
Oh, LaQuanda, real quick. I know we want to switch sections real quick, but I definitely want to add this on. Also, to Lynn's point, to get that conversation going, I believe they need to start teaching sexuality and genderality in schools, because there are a lot of children that are identifying as transgender at a very young age. I knew I was trans at 4 years old. You couldn't tell me that I wasn't a girl. I knew I was one at 4 years old. And see, I think that's also, just other than the church, I think it also needs to be taught in schools as well, because the dropout rate for transgender high school students is more than 84%. And the graduating rate is extremely low. Extremely. I was blessed to graduate before my transition, but I can happily say that I graduated college after I transitioned. So it also starts in schools as well. It really does. And I think that will help with the bullying, that will help children, even in middle school and high school, understand sexuality, genderality. It will help them. So that way, when they get out here in the world, they're able to be allies for our community and not beat us down because something they've heard. And to the church's point, the churches, they need to go and they need to understand and understand and learn what LGBTQ people, who we are, what we stand for, what we represent, and understand and know that it is not a choice. And you cannot bash us over a 2,000-year-old book just because it says something that has been misinterpreted over the years. So I just wanted to say that as far as in the school, it needs to be taught in the school system, and these preachers, pastors, or whatever they want to call themselves, I really don't care. They need to further their education in somebody's classroom, hopefully yours, LaQuanda, so you can tell them something, so that way they'll know and understand how to properly address LGBT people when they come into the church, because the church is supposed to help heal, not further hurt. So I just wanted to say that. I'm done.
And you know, it's about being supportive, because what people don't understand here, and then it's the word understand. You can be supportive, and then as you're supportive, learn to be understanding. Because understanding is a continuous process that involves educating yourself on what and what not to do. So you can be supportive of someone and not understand everything that's going on, because an understanding is something that takes time, it takes effort, and it takes intention.
Right, that part.
It takes active intention to understand. And so you can be supportive. The whole thing is about, and being honest. Hey, I love you, I support you. I may not understand everything, but I am willing to learn so that I can support you in the best way that I can. That is our starting point. It's our starting point. And so we're gonna dive right back in, because this is something. Miss Lynn brought it up, and it's one thing that I have been infuriated about. And when I initially reached out to Queen about doing this discussion, is the level of violence that is taking place in this country, particularly against trans women of color. And we generally become unaware that these acts have taken place, because as Miss Lynn has pointed out, the press misgenders these individuals, completely disrespects their existence, attempts to nullify their legacy and who they were by calling them what's on a piece of plastic. So that's we have to hold the media accountable. That's one thing. We have, every time that happens, we have to, if we call in the editor, if we're calling the producer and saying you misgendered that individual, this is who they are, you need to correct that statement. Those are things we have to do, because who a person is matters. You know how many times I've sent things back because somebody misspelled my name? Like, I don't know who that is. And so
Right.
it just shows you that even in death, how much the trans community is disrespected. It's completely disrespected. But we are going to talk about, this senseless violence. And not only that, because I'm going, Queen, I know you called it out, and I'm going to call it out too. This exclusionary factor that had been taking place within the Black Lives Matter movement that seemed to exclude Black trans lives. Because we didn't have the awareness in marches when we would find out that one of our sisters and brothers was murdered in cold blood. No one was saying Black trans lives matter. Now, Brooklyn and Hollywood showed up and showed out last week. But I think it is so important that we remind ourselves that this entire community matters, because not only are individuals within the trans community, especially individuals of color, dealing with just the discrimination, the inconsideration, the gendering, the lack of resources. They're also dealing with the racism,
And so much more.
It's,
Right.
it's so much. It's so much more. And so I'm just gonna leave it to the panel to fall into this conversation wherever you want to. But where do we start? Because hold on, I'm trying to unmute you. Who is that? Okay, there you go, Lynn. I'm sorry. No, where do we start? Because sometimes our movements are our powerful movements to move our communities forward seem to be exclusive and leaving some of us behind.
I think it starts with accountability. And I think people need to get out of their minds that Black Lives Matter is only a movement when a white officer kills an unarmed Black man. Because Ty know how I feel about this, because me and him had this conversation. I was like, I want to set up a meeting with whomever I need to talk to, because as much, trans women die at an alarming rate. It's scary. And the ones that are reported are the ones that we know about. What about the ones that aren't going reported? Because there were 2 girls in Macon, my hometown, that were murdered a few years ago. Nobody knew. Nobody knew those ladies. And so it's like, where is the same outrage for a white officer killing an unarmed Black man? Where's that same outrage when a Black man, one of us, a Black person murders a Black trans woman? Where is the same outrage with that? Where is the conversation being held with the founders of the Black Lives Matter movement? 2 of the 3 of them are in the LGBTQ community. So where is the outrage with that? Where is their conversation? I'm not hearing their voices with that. So it pisses me off. I'm not even gonna lie. It pisses me off because we have to, it's sad when we rally for our own. Trans people have to rally for trans folks. And they wonder why we are loud, we have attitudes, we ready to fight, and we have to kick and scream and do all of that just to be recognized and noticed, because nobody else wants to do it. Our own community doesn't want to do it. So it's frustrating to me when people have in their minds that Black Lives Matter movement is only for an unarmed Black man that gets murdered by a white officer. So people, that's a false narrative that people need to get out of their minds, because that is such a myth. It is such a myth.
But I tell you this, so there are 2 members on the Black Lives Committee that are of the LGBT community.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm quite sure they're not trans.
No,
and
they're not. They're lesbian.
We all see, I'm using I statement here. For me, there's not many cisgender gay males or females that really come out and speak up for trans people. I feel like half of them are right along with the heterosexual community when it comes to us. They don't even value us. So how can we expect for them to even speak up for us when they don't even value us? Like you said, trans lives are part of Black lives. I tell you about all the time, I am trans. I am Black first. I'm trans second. but I am black first. Excuse my French, you said be frank. When my daddy fucked my mother and they had to get a child, they knew, first of all, it was gonna be black. They didn't know black what, but it was going to be black. First, a black girl, a black boy, black first. So since I happen to turn out to be trans, I am black first. So what do you mean that my blackness isn't worthy enough to be fought for? You know, that's not only just for, you know, just heterosexual men and, you know, heterosexual and cisgender women. You know, it's not just for them, it's for all of us. You know, and I feel like this. There is no mountaintop. There is no dream without us. When King says he's been to the mountaintop, he has a dream. There is none without us, because our blackness are in numbers. There is strength in numbers. If there's going to be any kind of movement be fought to uplift black folks in general, we're part of that number. Until they value that and see that, we have to keep pushing back and let them know that we're not going to stand for that either. We're going to, you know, if y'all going to go hard for just for the cisgender women, we go hard for our people. But we also have to have the backing of our community to back us. Not just the trans community, but also the LGBT, I would say. You know, they have to also stand up as well and not be silent. You know, and I feel like I agree with you. Somebody needs to go to Black Lives Matter and call their ass out, because what are you doing? So, you know, it's for some black, not all blacks. So some blacks can be, you know, free and have equality, and you know, you don't want to be oppressed, but not all of us. So there's no equality for everyone, only for some of us. No, that's not how that roll and how that go. I can't wait, because you know the National Trans March is happening again this year, and I can't wait, because I'll be speaking again this year, and I have a lot to say to let them know that we're not standing for that. So I feel like we should go just as hard for our folks as they go for theirs.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that simple.
Isn't it funny? Go ahead, Zara.
I was gonna say, and like you said, Lynn, there's no dream without us. The LGBTQ community needs to remember.
And there's no mountaintop.
Listen, without Marsha P. Johnson,
Say
the
it.
mother,
Say it.
I mean, she is the
Say
queen
it.
goddess of all things that I try to embody. If it wasn't for her strength, her courage, and her life, the very fiber of her being, she knew something was wrong and something had to be done. So our own community needs to know and remember that it was a Black trans woman that looked like me that started a riot, because she was like, we're not having this. So our community needs to understand that we started this, a woman that looks like me. You wouldn't have no pride if it wasn't for women like me. Understand that. And people don't. So that's why I thank God for people like my sister Lynn, who started the Trans March on DC. Because she's taking what Marsha P. Johnson did and she's trying to bring it to a bigger and broader picture. So everybody can see and understand that we're not invisible. We're not going to shut up until equality happens. No more privilege at this point. It's straight equality across the board. Because if you're going to do that, then you're no better than everybody else that's treating Black people wrong. And I'm just going to say it like that. So respect the mother of the movement, respect trans women, LGBTQ plus people should hold trans women in such a high regard, because we sacrifice so much. People don't understand how fearful it is for us as trans women to walk out our doors and automatically have a target on our backs. And hell, half of us got targets on our back in our houses when we invite men over. So I'm just gonna keep it 100. So we live in fear every day, but we don't let that fear overtake us because we know how powerful we are. And I'm leaving it alone because I get hyped
Well,
up
girl,
about
you
that
just
long time.
when
'Cause I
you
know
just
me.
said a mouthful because basically that's when I first came up and thought about the National Trans March. Before I even sat down, I had a discussion with Marissa about it back in Myrtle Beach. It was just I just kind of felt like there was something that needed to be done that wasn't happening, and we were not really being heard the way we should. I was like, what could we do that we've never done before that could grab their attention? And I'm like, there's never been a march in America on DC for trans folk, period, anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to where the whole nation, all 50 states where trans folks are, come together, march, let our voices be heard, say no more. And that's what I wanted, you know, and I just, you know, I thank Marissa so much because she was able to make that vision, that dream come alive because she saw the value in that and she saw how epic and great it could be. Now, granted, you know, last year was beautiful. It went off. I enjoyed every minute of it. But this year is very important, you know, for the march this year. I feel, especially with all that's going on now, you know, the uprising. You know, this is the time more so than ever for us to lift our voices and be heard. You know, and like I told the girls then, you know, I want to see triple the numbers this year of girls coming out and our trans brothers coming out and the allies who support us coming out and support us and let me know this cannot keep happening. We cannot keep seeing trans women be murdered, be hung, be beheaded, you know, and have limbs cut off and nothing be done. And y'all think y'all black folks, you black cisgender people gonna have an easy way and we're not included in that number? No, no, that's not what it's about. If, you know, my thing is that what God would do, what Christ would do? Would he leave folks behind? And you holler about, and what kills me, they say, oh, Jesus, really, Jesus, my ass. Because you were so Christ-like, and Jesus, like, you wouldn't, your whole attitude would be different. You know, he loved everyone. That goes for us as well. So what are you talking about? You know, you can't pick and choose who salvation and equality goes to. I thought it went to everyone, not someone or somebody, or you point here and pick there. No, I thought it was for everyone. You know, freedom should be free, be given, but it's not. You have to fight for it. So now I feel like this is our time, our era, to fight in every corner of the globe that we need to for what we need. This is just it. So I hope everybody on this panel be there this year in DC because we need it.
I'll be there. I'm 10 minutes from DC.
Okay, you know, babe, we need it. You know, I'm like, oh no, honey, I'm tired. And I'm tired of waking up. You know, I read an article the other day talking about it was a trans woman that was hanged. I think it was made. And now we're just not hearing about this. She's hung from a tree, and we're only now hearing about that. That's unacceptable. You know, the media hides things. They don't tell us everything. So how was that possible? No, we got to go hard. This is just as hard as they do. And there is no mountaintop without us. It's that simple.
Isn't it funny
I don't want to tell you.
Go ahead, Ty.
Isn't it funny that we embody the very same things that we're trying to fight against? So you look at these white folk, right? And you look at the hierarchy, old white men making decisions for everybody. White women think they have a voice, but they really don't. And if the white men don't allow them that space to have the voice, right? And so then we look at our own community and we see that same hierarchy playing out in our own community. Cis, hetero, Black men control the narrative, they control the space, and cis, hetero, Black women really don't have a voice, right? So then you start looking at how that plays out within our community, the LGBTQ community. You look at gay white men. If they cry white tears, then something happens. But when you look at, you know, people of color within the LGBTQ community and you highlight Black trans women, it's the same narrative. Unless this white gay man gives room for you to speak, you're not as important or your views are not heard. And so within our own community, people of color, it is so imperative, and Zara and we have had this conversation, and it is important to me because I believe, as a person who comes from childhood trauma, or what have you, I believe that you don't grow and you don't move until your family is on the same page, until healing takes place. So this Black Lives Movement is awesome. It is on fire. However, unless we have a family conversation within our own community, we're working against ourselves. And so once again, we're placed in a position where we're the ones receiving the trauma. We're the ones receiving, you know, the backlash. Trans women are being slaughtered. And I say slaughtered because there's no way you can have as many trans women as we've had to be killed. And how many of those cases have been solved in justice as far as someone paying the price and going to jail and all that kind of stuff has been served? That is a slaughtering, and those who are doing it are our own men, cis hetero men of color.
Speak.
But yet you want me to feel you know, like the world is lost because your Black men are being slaughtered out here in the streets. Well, we have to look at our family, our nucleus. We are broken. And so until we have those conversations, until we sit at the table, until we address these issues within our family, we are working against ourselves. It is so imperative. And there's no way, let me tell you something, as a masculine-centered, identified lesbian, I didn't take no shit. You're not getting ready to put your hands on my folk. I don't care who it is. You're not getting ready to put your hands on my folk. And if I get beat down, that's a risk that I'm willing to take, because I'm not going to stand back and watch anybody harm come to them. And as a trans identifying person, you think I'm getting ready to sit here and allow the same? No. And so how do we want other people to value our mere existence as people of color first, when we can't value our own sisters within our own community? And it is so annoying to me because, and I'm gonna put this in here, it is annoying to me because our trans men, some of them embody the same damn mindset. They are misogynistic. They do not stand up for their trans women. They embody these same mindsets in order, I don't know if it's to fit in, I don't know what it is, but our own trans men can watch our trans sisters being slaughtered and feel as though they play no part. But you're silent, you are complicit. This is your sister. How can you watch your sister? How can you, and I missed the mark one time with Zarian last week, and I felt some kind of way, but I couldn't get out the space. How in the world do you allow your trans sister, knowing what's going on in this day and age, to walk to her car at night by herself? How do you not make sure? And it's not displaying like you're weak or not. No, it is standing up at least for nothing else to let my trans sister know, baby, look, I got you. Let's go. I'm gonna make sure you are right. Hit me up. Let me know you made it home. That is what we should do for each other. But some of our trans brothers, they want to control the narrative because they feel like they have they're more enlightened on how the conversation should go, but they are following the same hierarchy. Allow our trans women to have center stage and to speak about those issues that plague them. And then we, in turn, should sit back and listen, and we can learn how we can truly stand up for our trans sisters. So it's twofold. We're looking at cis hetero men in activism in the movement, but we also got to look at our trans brothers too. What are you doing? What are you doing? Because I've noticed, and then I'm done. I've noticed that when I enter a certain space with my masculine energy, my masculine presenting self, people listen. And they don't even know that I'm trans a lot of the time, but they listen. So how greater would it be if our trans brothers who embody that negativity show up and say, hey, hold on, I'm gonna give my trans sister, or I'm gonna give my sister the mic. I'm gonna allow my sister to speak because my sister has something to say. My sisters need to be heard. My sisters need to be seen. So until we have a conversation, we are going to be working against ourselves, and we have to bring everybody to the table. Is it going to be comfortable? No, who cares? The objective is not to make you comfortable. The objective is to make you uncomfortable so that you start to stand up and speak out.
But I would say too, for our sisters, we need to start arming ourselves. You know, I'm to the point where now I'm ready to get me a gun. We got to start arming ourselves because, you know, too many of them are being, you know, killed at a rapid rate. So I'm gonna leave it there. I just feel like we need to start arming ourselves. We really do.
And I'm going to say, going to Ty's comment about the conversation within the family, and speaking from mental health clinician standpoint, in family dynamics, sometimes family issues aren't resolved because members of the families don't want to acknowledge, and I'm going to use the word sins loosely, but they don't want to acknowledge. They'll say, oh, that white man is racist. That white man discriminated. But they won't say, as a queer person, that they discriminate against the trans community.
Mhm.
They won't say, oh, I'll go to this Black Lives Matter march, or I'll go to this Pride event, but if it has something to do with the trans community, no, I don't want to take part in that.
Mhm.
You know, because it's easy to point out what somebody else doing.
Right.
But when you have to take responsibility for the mess and the hurt and the pain that you have caused somebody else by your level of thinking, by your inactions or negative actions, then you get silent and the family breaks down because you only want to point out what someone on the outside is doing. Because if you attack my Blackness, then we got to go after you. If you attack my queerness, then we got to go after you. But if you attack one of my sisters and brothers who is trans, wait.
Mom's the word crickets.
Crickets. Then we go back into that pattern where the person who's victimized, the person who's traumatized, has to heal and advocate for themselves at the same damn time.
All over again.
All over again. But then we'll say, the majority, we have to advocate for ourselves and be victimized and heal all at the same time from this racial trauma, not understanding that we're doing the exact same thing to another community, to the people who look like us, to our family. And we don't want to acknowledge and respect them, but we expect acknowledgement and respect from the majority, from white folks. Because if white people do something to us, then oh, the world is falling apart. If we
Right.
do it to our trans sisters and brothers, well,
But ask yourself this: why isn't it that we don't have white men killing white trans women?
Question.
We don't see white men killing white trans women. And this is I feel like the reason why we don't see that is because they don't care enough. They don't care enough because they're part of them. You know, they may not like it, they may not even agree with it, but they're part of them. They're people. Because you don't see white men killing white trans women or, you know, or white trans men. We don't see that, you know, because again, their method is always preserve what? White race at all costs. And they're part of the white race. So they don't kill them. So why can't we preserve the black race at all costs, which is everybody, whether you gay, trans, whatever. We should have that same narrative that they have, and we don't.
I have mixed views on this because I think that we have, I mean, everything is, when we talk about these things, yes, they're going to be uncomfortable and they should, as we mentioned, but we don't see enough of the good. We don't see enough of the families that are supportive, the you know, the support groups that are supportive, the people that are doing good things. So we don't see enough of that. We always see a lot of the negative things. And what I've seen is I have to educate myself. I had no idea until I started transitioning and going to group to find out that so many Black trans women were dying. I was horrified. I mean, it hurt my heart. I'm like, God, and the way that they were, I hate when people just kind of downplayed, oh, they were killed. They were murdered. They were slaughtered. The way that it happened is just, it just breaks my heart, and it makes me sick. It makes me sick. But I have to educate myself still. I'm like, I literally, like I mentioned before, I tried to just say, you know what? Okay, this makes me feel stressed. This makes me feel some kind of way. You know, I pick your battle kind of thing, to where I just said, I just don't want to look at it. Well, now I'm like, I'm looking at everything. We all have our place. We all have our part. Where we can speak, we can speak. Where we can march, we can march. Where we can educate, we educate. And I think that a big part of this is it takes a village. This really boils down to something so simple. People are so worried about what other people think. You know, Ty, you mentioned in our community, Black trans man. You know, they think that some of them, I'm not speaking for all, think that they're elevated because they're on that status, especially when you're passing. When you're passing, and there's a lot of Black trans men that don't want anybody to know, don't address me. I just, you know, don't talk about trans nothing. I'm a man, I'm just a man, period. Every voice needs to be heard, and especially the strong voice. And if you are passing and you are that masculine, then let your voice be heard in a positive way. Be that support. It's, you know, this is a learning thing. Pick and know your place. Work on your strong suits, because the only way that this is gonna get better is we work as a community, and we talk until we are, I'm gonna say, black in the face. we talk. But I mean, I can see it. We all can see it from the perspective of being Black and what's happening, but to being in our particular demographic, we got a lot of work to do. But it's going to take more than talk. It's going to have to take that action. And where does that action, where does it start? I mean, yeah, where does it start? Does it start the same way that we talk about, you know, educating the community as a whole? Does it start with, you know, schools? Does it start there? We got some deep roots to get to. We got a lot to do. And we just can't stop. I know we were talking a little bit earlier, like, God, I hope this does not die down. We can't let this fire get extinguished. I was blown away when I seen all those people. I said, wait, is this about trans? This is trans people? What? I seen all those people that cry. I said, 55,000 people. I've never seen that. 55,000 people marching. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of transgender and allies. I've never seen that before. You know, so I have just mixed feelings. We need to show the good, because on the other end of that, I can say You know, personally, I have a very supportive family, you know, and I don't hear that. I see a lot of people that don't have that, and I feel guilty for saying it sometimes, but I think it needs to be said so that everyone can see that, yes, you can have this, because, you know, your blood is not always your family.
That's right.
So
Exactly.
whether, you know, I say, because this is my blood family and my non-blood family that I have that support from. So we got to get around these people, and we're gonna, and even if it's in little clusters, we got to start doing that. I feel blessed, and I can lend an ear and say, you know what? No, listen, it can happen. This is how it is in my life. It can happen. Don't get discouraged. Even as horrible as it is, don't get discouraged. You need to listen to, I'll listen to you. I'll tell you, look, this is what it looks like on the other side. What can I do? You know, and we just got to stay active, and we have to take an action. We have to take that action and move it further.
You know, a part of that, and I love that take action, because with Healing Black Women, we do a little segment called Today's Conversation every single day. And I noticed that a lot of entities and organizations and companies were apologizing for this and that. And I just got so fed up one day. I was just like, keep your damn apology. Keep it. We don't need your policy. We need accountable actions. We need policies. We need policies that have been enacted to be enforced. We need the wrong policies to be retracted. You know, we don't need your apology. We don't need that right now. We don't need, we done with apologies. Because remember the concept of the abuser, right? He or she abuses, then they apologize, then they're okay for a little while because you die down, not going to leave, and then guess what? Cycle happens all over again. Apologize again. Keep your damn apologies.
Period.
Not accepting apologies anymore. No more apologizing. Because the goal is for your actions to be in such a way you don't have to apologize anymore. You're supposed to do. And I think Char is so dead on the nail, is that we have to hold people who are in positions, who have platforms, who are the narrative creators and directors accountable for what they are putting in, you know, out to the public. You're having this rally, you forgot this group of people. Oh, we're here. They're here. You need to include them too. Media accountable. Every image, and it's so important. It is important that we are recognizing and honoring those who are being slaughtered, Black trans women and women of color who are being slaughtered in the streets, that we are correctly identifying and honoring who they are, you know, in the media. But we also need to hold the media accountable for showing positive imagery of, like, this person, you know, this is Queen, this is what she does, this is Lynn, she organized this. We have to hold them accountable to say, you're missing an entire group of people. You're excluding an entire group of people, because your first introduction to a Black trans woman shouldn't be an article about her death.
Right.
And that's what is happening to so many people. And, you know, it's not right. So we need to hold the narrative controllers responsible. And then we have to realize, look at the community around us and say, you know what? I don't see this narrative happening in this space in this way. I'll do it.
There you go.
As allies, that's what we need to do. And that's, you know, what I try to do myself. If I don't see something, I don't mind doing it.
And she don't.
At this stage in the game, I do not care what you think about me. I do not care what you gotta say about me. People are dying.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm a rider. And that's just it. That's just plain and simple. There is no blurred line in this for me. You either for or against. And I need you to identify yourself early, so I'll know where to position you.
Right.
And that's just it. So call the people out who are controlling the narratives. And if you don't see that narrative going a certain way, create your own narrative and impact the community around you. It's about getting to it.
Period.
Keep your damn apology. We can give speeches all day, but it's about this work.
Right.
Right.
It's about
Tired of talking. I need some action done.
And
Absolutely.
isn't it crazy? You have to show people just simple, treat people as human beings. Like, it's like if you took away, and not stripping anybody of who they are. However, if you took away trans and you took away LGBTQ and you took away male and you took away female, just treat me like I deserve to live. I deserve to live and breathe and support myself. There is absolutely no reason why trans women should have to resort to sex work to survive. You don't believe that this human being deserves to be able to support themselves in a safe manner, to be able to provide for themselves and their family? These are human beings. We are human beings. Like, it's crazy. You have to say that not only to those outside of being a person of color, but to your own people. Hey, just like you wake up every morning and you breathe air, I deserve to do that too. And I loved what Zarian said the other day on her live. And I'm paraphrasing. Big, leave me the way you found me. Leave me the way you found me.
I'm actually
When
starting
you
a
found
campaign.
me, I was alive.
I'm actually starting a campaign for that slogan. The same way you found me,
Yes.
it's the same way you leave me.
Yes.
Yes, I'm starting a campaign for that. So I'll keep y'all posted on that.
So I know it has come to the hour. I am so grateful and thankful that am blessed that I've been able to share this space with all of you and have this dynamic discussion tonight. I just would like to give each of you an opportunity to just, leave us with some closing words, actions, anything that you feel that can benefit the community tonight. Ty, go ahead and start us off.
Simple. When your time is up on this earth and you have left this earth, what did you do with your time? Did you exclude people with that time? Did you hurt people with that time? Or did you help? Did you help? Did you speak up? Did you stand up for injustices and not just when it benefits you, but when it is inconvenient for you? I mean, that's just simple. That's it. As human beings, when you leave this earth, are you satisfied with not, having no substance, to the life that you led? And who did you help? Because it's not just about you. So we have to really be intentional with making sure that we look out for one another. We speak up when things are not right, and we hold people accountable, even our own family members, as well as ourselves. We have to be able to say, you know what, I messed up. And I'm willing to learn and do better. And I think that when we start walking around with those lenses and start living our life that way, that's when true change comes.
Char?
Can I follow what Ty said? I love this whole panel, but I will say this. In these times, and this is the time, not to be silent, If there's something that you don't like, then you need to change it. You can't be willing to use the words and say the words and not have an action behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to make sure that that's what we are doing. And if you don't know how, then you get with somebody that does, and you need that guidance, and then you'll figure it out, because not everybody knows what to do or how to do it. But you better start putting yourself in a position so that you can get that, and you'll know what to do. You can get some guidance, and then you'll find your way. One of my favorite things to say, and I said it earlier, is purpose. Make sure, again, you want change, then be the change, but you do things on purpose, for purpose.
Queen.
Now abide faith, hope, and love. But above all these, the greatest is love. Do unto others as you would have them to do unto you.
And Miss Lynn. Hold on. Let's see if we can get you. Oh, there she is. Hold on, we're waiting on Miss.
I think did we lose her?
No, I don't think we lost her. She's still here.
Okay.
There she go. Let's see if she can pop
Oh,
up.
I don't see her on my end.
Let me see. I see her. I see her on my. Her phone is muted.
Yeah, I'm asking to unmute her. Let's see if she can pop up. So while we're seeing if Miss Lynn can pop back in, she may be having some connection issues. One thing I would say is I'm not a Bible quoter. I'm not a big Bible quoter. There is a story about how Jesus left the 99 to go see about the one. That leave the 99. The shepherd would leave the 99 to go see about the one. And sometimes we don't want to leave the comfort of the crowd. We want to be around where everything is and where we feel like everyone else is doing or everyone else is saying. But my question is, what if you were that one that needed somebody to come get you, to speak up for you, to protect you, to represent you, to advocate for you? What if you were that one? Would you not want someone to love you? Would you not want someone to respect you? Would you not want someone to care enough to acknowledge your existence, to say, I have to go protect that person? You would. So if you would want that for yourself, want it for somebody else, plain and simple. And Miss Lynn, can you close us out?
Oh, she's muted.
Hold on, Miss. Here you go, Miss Lynn. Just leave it
I'm sorry, y'all.
to girls.
My signal is terrible where I'm at. It keeps going in and out, in and out.
That's
But
fine.
I would like to say, we have to love one another more than what we have. We have to honor each other more. God gave us this one planet to live on, and I'm quite sure He didn't.
I think she went out again.
We gonna get her.
I think it's just a signal issue.
Yeah,
But she
I think
nailed
she
it.
said, I believe she said it was her
Talking with
connection.
me. But I do concur with what she said, that we have to do a better job with just loving each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you love each other, everything else we talked about tonight, you know, comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the respect, the nurturing, the advocating, you know, all those things come into play. Hold on. There we go. Ms. Lynn, you can mute yourself.
She said she trying.
Okay, hold on. All right, you can unmute yourself.
Okay.
We can't hear you, Ms. Lynn.
I'm quite sure, you know, when you know, he set us all down on this planet, that it was not for us to fight and not love each other and honor each other. So if we can do more of that and more understanding and empathy for one another, I feel like we can go a very long way.
And hold on, she's coming back. Just unmute yourself.
And so it's like, we need more of that out here. We need more of that. Forgive me, y'all, my signal is terrible where I am at. It's horrible.
We were gonna let you.
So I would like to just leave with that. We need more love. We need more love, peace, and understanding. And if we have that, it can go a long way. But the Black community has to be willing to sit down and have the hard conversation that we need to have, because they don't want to have it seem like. But it needs to be had if we want any kind of equality, justice, or progress within our community.
And I agree with her. And so with that, I would like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Panelists, thank you so much. Again, I know it was last minute, but I appreciate your openness, your willingness, and just your raw truth. And it's sharing your experiences, sharing your knowledge, and really helping us move forward as we continue to do this work together. So